welcome, Gretchen, and we thank you for agreeing to speak about your experience as Dean in honor of our Centennial celebration for the School of Education. Uh, Tell us, when did you serve as Dean, and for how long did you serve?
Okay. Well, I served as acting dean from, as far as I can tell from my records, August 1st of 2016 through to March 15th, 2018, which was a little bit short of 2 years. We were in the middle of serious budget issues, which you know of continuing right through till this day. And so the School of Education was losing faculty because some faculty had retired, some faculty had resigned, and we were never able to replace any of them because there was a hiring freeze because of the budget situation. And so, we had reductions in faculty, and yet we had increases in the number of teaching fellows that came into the program, which meant that we would have to have a lot more adjunct faculty members, with a fewer full-time staff and a larger number of adjunct faculty members. And also the state education department was continuing on its quest to increase the requirements for accreditation, to increase the number of exams our students had to take. So that was all of that going on. So we were kind of being squeezed from outside, and we were being kind of squeezed from inside the college, at the same time. And then even we had 3 departments, but they were very unequal in size. I mean, one of them was like 24 faculty members. The other 2 had one at 9, one at 12 or whatever. And that was not a situation that could go on. So we kind of knew there was something that needed to be done there. And also, we had just finished an accreditation cycle. And and we did very well, particularly in the diversity area.
At the time that you took on the role as interim dean, what were your hopes for the School of Education?
Well, I wanted to make progress on those 2 longstanding issues, which had to do with our 3 departments and that had to do with our data collection and security. Also, I had been a department chair, and I had been a department chair in 2 different departments, at least part of the time. So I felt I knew the faculty quite well, and I felt I knew the programs quite well. And then as an administrator, as an associate dean, I felt like I had worked very closely with a lot of staff members, other administrators and a lot. And I sensed that there needed to be much more dialogue among faculty and staff and faculty and administrators. And I was kind of hoping to, kind of push that along, encourage that, and if possible, improve the kind of relationships. I felt the staff was not appreciated enough by faculty. They really were very much taken for granted. And I knew that because I had worked so closely with them. So I wanted to work on that issue. And then because we dealt with CUNY Central, because the dean goes to the dean's meetings down there. And we had started the process of getting a new undergraduate science program approved that had to go through CUNY Central. We were working with the New York City Department of Education because they were always asking us to train more teachers or to train this kind of teacher or that kind of teacher. They were setting up a new teaching academy. They wanted us to participate in that. And then we had the school districts that we were working most closely with. And I felt like we really needed to keep up our good reputation with all of those different groups. And it's so easy to lose it. It's so easy to lose it if you don't follow through on things, if you don't have programs that work well. So I thought that was we wanted to have good administration, and we wanted to be willing collaborators with these different groups so that we would have a good reputation so that we could keep, and some of it was just we wanted to, but part of it was that because we believed in helping the city schools, but part of it was we wanted to be sure to keep up our enrollment in the School of Ed.
So in thinking about your work as a dean from August 2016 to March 2018, what were you most proud of?
Oh, okay, because it wasn't a lot of time, right, to get a lot of stuff done. But we were successful in some of those sort of hopes that I had. One of them was we did reorganize our School of Ed from 3 departments into 2. It did not go smoothly. There was a lot of discussion. There were some people who remained very unhappy about the way we had broken up the departments, even after it was approved by a majority of faculty. It took us over a year to do it. Our holiday party. I was there for the first holiday party and the second one, actually, while I was dean. And I thought that, again, this could maybe help increase the dialogue between faculty and staff. And so while in the past, the dean had been marvelously generous in, bringing in gift packages and so forth to raffle off, but I thought that the faculty and staff should contribute these little gifts, that they shouldn't be more than maybe $20 each, and that they should get up and say, this is why I chose this gift. This is why it's important to me. This is why it's a part of my culture, or it's a part of, my family history or whatever. And we did that, and I thought that it was very successful. The stories people told were wonderful. I think we all got to know each other better by listening to these stories. So when we had lots and lots more gifts, but they were smaller gifts, but they had a lot of meaning to the people who contributed them. I mean, I remember, well, I won't go into details. Okay, that's probably a little bit too much. But well, anyway, and then when Mary Driscoll came back, she continued doing it. And so, because I think she realized too that it was a very good idea. I had been a program director, I'd been a chair, I'd been an associate dean. And even though I kind of expected it, I was very surprised at the extent to which the job of a dean is looking outward instead of inward in the school that they're running. I mean, I always figured, well, you're running a school, you're going to want to really know everything that's going on in your school. You want to give a lot of attention to your school. But the dean's job really is so outward facing. I was surprised at the enormity of the budget issues in the life of a dean. Well, I went back to look through my date books, which it's always nice to keep your date books. And I couldn't believe the number of meetings, budget this, budget that, budget this, budget that, either budgets at the college-wide level or budgets with our own finance, director of finance, or budget meetings talking to chairs about the budget. It's just such a huge part of of a dean's life. It's dealing with the budget. And of course, the dean is always kind of caught in the middle between the demands of the college as a whole and the demands of their own school. And the budget is always right in there, staring everybody right in the face. I also realized as dean how much time I spent just talking to people. I mean, I was there a lot because I didn't travel a lot, but people dropped by my office all the time, and people came in, they wanted to talk. And it was really, really important part of the job to listen to people. Sometimes people were upset that they didn't even necessarily expect you to do anything. They just wanted you to listen to what their problems were and what their gripes were. And I think that's such a critical part of being an effective dean, is to be able to, you know, have a more open office and be able to listen to the people who are in your school. Um, and I also realized as dean how important it was to show up at all the events we had. You know, even if you drop by for a little while, it's so important to people to know you're the dean. You say hello to them, you get to see who they are, you get to know them. And it's just such an important thing. I mean, all of the meetings, all the orientations, all the graduate open houses, all the award ceremonies that you go to as a part of the School of Ed, that's very critical too. You can't be a dean who just sort of hides out in their office. I mean, you really have to engage. And I know, you know, and I engaged a lot with the Education Alumni Association too. You know, you just, that's a big part of the dean. And well, and then, you know, I think anybody deals with change. You know, there's constant change. Even within a 2-year period, the changes that are, you know, we're poised in between all the demand. And the School of Ed, I don't know, maybe more so than humanities, you know, or some other divisions, but we're just poised in between the school system out there for which we're training teachers and the demands of state ed and the demands of the New York City and the demands of CUNY and the demands of CCNY and even the federal government when they make a rule change. You know, there's just constant change that you're always having to, okay, now what do we do? You know, what do we do now? What do we do now about this change? How do we prepare for this change? And you get started talking to people, having a dialogue about how to deal with change. And it's just inevitable. And I think in education, it's probably more prevalent than it might be in other dean positions. And I think that's it. I think
Okay.
That's enough, right?
Now, Gretchen, this is the last question. From your perspective as dean, how has the School of Ed made an impact in the midst of change on public education, on New York City, and beyond?
Well, I mean, because we work so closely with the DOE, we have helped prepare teachers for a lot of their most high needs areas. I mean, even our elementary school teachers, even though elementary school teachers are not, you know, it's not a high needs area, it is in the Bronx. And a lot of the teachers we prepare go to work in the Bronx, you know, in the high needs districts in the Bronx. But with all of the, you know, the Spanish teachers that we have been turning out through the Teaching Fellows program, all the bilingual program, all the bilingual teachers that we have been, you know, educating, all of the special ed programs that we have. And, you know, we have districts come to us. Can you please provide a certain number of courses for our teachers so that they're certified in special ed at the elementary level, but we really need them at the high school level. So can you provide some courses so then we have to work with the program. We set up the courses that they need and work out all of the complications of how they're going to pay for the work that we do, which sometimes gets very complicated. And then you know, and even you're talking about public schools, but even New York State asked us to help them provide courses for non-public school teachers in the New York City area, because they had gotten money from the federal government and had never spent it that way. And they were getting into a lot of difficulty over this. So I think that we have, you know, provided many teachers in critical areas for the DOE. But also, you know, we have a very progressive faculty that really, truly believes in culturally relevant education. And so we work really hard to educate teachers in these progressive practices. I mean, our science program, you know, has very progressive practices for how to teach science in today's world. Our social studies program, very socially justice oriented. Our early childhood program, very oriented toward, toward away from worksheets and stuff like that, toward real, live kinds of instruction for kids. Our special ed teacher, programs. So we have these very progressive ideas, and we work really hard to educate teachers who are going to take these progressive ideas into their actual classrooms. Now, we don't always know how successful they're going to be. Depends a lot upon the schools that they teach in. But I think we make a real contribution in providing I use the word progressive as kind of a catch-all, but a very progressive agenda for teacher education that I'm not sure all schools of education provide that.
And along with the teachers, also about educational leadership, do we have an impact on educational leadership within the city and beyond?
Yes, we do. We certainly do. And all you have to do is go to the principal's breakfast that the Education Alumni Association always sets up, and you see the principals who come to that. And most of the time they're minority principals. They got their degrees, their leadership degrees at City College. That's how they got into being administrators, by coming through our programs at City College. So we have again, a very progressive group of faculty in our leadership program. And I think that we do a good job of preparing leaders for the New York City schools. Now, I can't really think of anything else right now, except I must say that I think the School of Education has a wonderful faculty and a wonderful staff. And I really, the chairs of the 3 departments during the year that we were working on reorganizing the programs, reorganizing the departments, they were so conscientious, took the job, took that task so seriously. And I think I couldn't have done what I did if I hadn't gotten as much cooperation as I did from our faculty and all of our staff members.
Gretchen, thank you again. You've been such a key component to the life of the School of Education, and we're so deeply grateful that you're able to participate in our Centennial celebrations and to hear your oral history about your time as faculty and as interim dean. So thank you very much.